Auburn quickly put to bed those memories of their shaky escape versus Bethune-Cookman and their home win over Merrimack. Got out with a 95 to 57 victory. Handled this game from pretty much start to finish. I believe Merrimack started the game shooting 2 for 22 from the field. Auburn imposed its will on the glass, and by just unleashing pressure on those Merrimack guards. Tanner, this was a matchup that we came into very curious to see how Auburn would deal with that weird Merrimack zone. Didn't seem to slow them down too much. I thought they got a ton of points on the offensive glass. I thought Keyshawn Hall was awesome in this
Oh
one.
yeah.
Just made his presence known really from the jump. You could see he was locked in, like in terms of rebounding as well. It was like, oh yeah, every time he's grabbing a board, he's pushing the tempo on the other end. He's getting to the getting to the free throw line a ton, drawing contact, finishing through it, knocking down threes. Basically, did everything you want to see from him. But what were some of your biggest takeaways just watching this game?
Yeah, so I mean, Keyshawn Hell, I think is going to be my guy on this team. I'm high on some of their some of those like bigger men transfers. Like I really like Hall, I really like Overton. But in this game, what was interesting was that the Frosh big men really drew the most attention for me. Williams Adams and Aporum,
Mhm.
who Williams Adams had a lot of high post flashes and baseline cuts, which is exactly what you want to do against the Gallo zone. Didn't realize he could let it fly. He has some shooting range to his game. Of course, he had a few bad possessions against the zone. But what else are you going to expect from a freshman? But I think in the second half, early in the second half, Williams Adams had like back to back, big to big lob dunks, which was so sick because that's another great way to beat the Gallo
Mhm.
zone. Um, Between those two, I thought the interior defense looked pretty good. I thought it looked very long, very bouncy. Um, they had those two, Oporum and Sebastian Adams, had like a crazy back-to-back block stretch at the 9 minute mark in the first half. But again, that's against Merrimack, who can't create much rim pressure as much as they try. Their offense looked pretty much how I expected it to look. 7 points in the first 10 minutes. I mean, they got forced into a lot of ISO, which is how Auburn typically plays defense, and Merrimack just had nothing that they could do. Other takeaways were I'm really, really excited to watch Elijah Freeman this year. Seems like a pure ethical hooper. Um, he had a sick Euro step move
That
at like the 11:30 mark in the first half. That was just beautiful.
That Euro was
Um,
nasty. When he hit that, I thought we were about to get like an Elijah Freeman coming out party. He only finished with
yeah.
4 points, but yeah, the Euro was special. I had that
Oh
same
yeah.
thought where I was like, there's where you see the flashes and why his upside is so enticing that he can do something like that at a 6'8", 6'9" frame, and he's got really long arms too. He has all the tools to be a plus defender as well. I'm very fascinated to see how he develops at Auburn.
Yeah. I will mention that I mean, Pettiford wasn't really much in this game, but he just had too much dribbling against the zone, in my opinion. Like he was always going to be a little neutralized by the Gallo zone. I'm happy that the Frosh big men stepped up. The
Mhm.
only concerning thing I had was, you know, they were pretty bad on the defensive boards last year. They were a little sketchy on the defensive boards in this game. I mean, that can happen with the Pearl scheme. They had like late in the first half. I think they allowed an 8-0 Merrimack run basically because Merrimack had like four offensive rebounds in a quick 4 minute stretch. And I don't like seeing that against Merrimack, who can't
Yeah,
rebound against anyone.
right.
So that's the really only negative I take away from this game. But for the most part, they took care of business, and I'm very enticed by those Frosh big men. They really drew a lot of my attention in this game.
Yeah, to your point on that stretch in the first half, that was really the only time that Merrimack it
Did
even feels.
anything?
Yes, I was gonna say gave them a scare, but it wasn't even a scare. They cut the lead from 20 to 12, and then you blinked, and Auburn was back up 17, and they hit the gas in the second half, and were up, I think, 30 by the 15 by the under 15. So it was nice to see, like when you see the final rebounding numbers. I mean, Keyshawn Hall to me is an awesome, awesome positional rebounder. He was
He had
someone who
six in the first 8 minutes.
it seemed like you could tell he was like you can just how do you put sometimes rebounding looks like it's how do I want to put this? Like you can just tell when someone is exerting maximum effort in a way to secure a rebound because it looked like he just
His
He just looked.
all-around effort in this game was great. He sparked a 9-0 run in the second half pretty much by himself with a couple of just like hard drives. He had a steal and then he hit that crazy tough three, like
With the
that
hand in
deep
his
range
face.
three with a
Yeah.
hand in his face. Yeah. He was fantastic in this game. And really when they needed him because I thought Pettiford was a little iffy. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. To that point on rebounding, like his activity level he was all over the basket. And I think it's just something where he's able to rise above any other defender. And it's almost like snare the rebound with one arm where you put a
Mhm.
little like, you put a little pop on your rebound just to let
Yeah.
everybody know like I'm here. This is going to be me setting the tone. And beyond that too, I thought it was great to see Williams Adams only finished with 5, but you take a 14-5 game out of your freshman big. Philip Jovic coming in with 10, like
Yeah.
seeing him get into double figures was great. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
He flashed a few moments for sure.
I'm with you though with just like this is the type of game where you want someone like a Mecca Purim to shine and get some extended run. I mean, he played most of the first half, and I know he's actually a JUCO big. I'm not entirely sure what his
Oh, I
eligibility
thought he
is,
was a
but
frosh. Okay, I didn't realize that.
so he might still have 4 years of eligibility left because I think he is a younger JUCO guy, but I'm not entirely sure what his classification is. But yeah, he was someone who I mean, when Keyshawn Murphy's healthy, you don't even really expect him in the rotation. So when you have a night like this where you can play him 19 minutes and he responds, shooting 4 for 4 from the field, giving you 4 boards, like you 2 blocks on top of that, you
Yeah. Oh
look.
yeah, yeah. He was all over the place on the defensive end.
Yeah, I thought kind of like I would say it wasn't just a Keyshawn Hall thing. Like the Williams Adams and Opurum were just all over the place. Great activity level, and I think that's a perfect way to make yourself stand out when you are a freshman, especially one of Opurum's ilk that's probably not expecting a ton of minutes this year. I know
I think
Williams.
the defensive, like especially on the interior, the defensive upside for this team is very high. Especially from what I saw from those big men, those young big men addition,
Mhm.
combined with Hall, combined with Murphy, combined with Pettiford, who can be a bit of a on-ball pest. Like this defense has a very high ceiling, I think, and it showed in this game, of course, against the bad offense. But you could see the tools that it could maybe translate into SEC play.
For sure. And to your point on Williams Adams looking very quickly like he belonged and just, I mean, he's always, I think when he was coming out of high school, he was known as a good athlete. So when you factor that in with his size, his motor, his switchability, it shouldn't be surprising that he's finding a way to make an impact on that side of the floor. But I've actually been really impressed by his offense. I mean, he's
Oh yeah,
averaging 14 and a half points through 2 games. What is he? 1 for 2 from the year from three, the 50%, small sample size. But because I actually think his mom played at UNC. So he was loosely on UNC's radar for a little bit. I don't think they ever recruited him too closely. So I watched a little bit of him. But in my impression of him was at this point, he's mainly just a hustle and athlete and physical tools kind of guy. So to see him be ready to give more offensive production, I think for one, it speaks volumes to Auburn's staff, even with that transition from Bruce to Stephen Pearl still I would say a good support group around him to be able to like coax this type of production so early in his career, albeit in bye games. But again, I just think at this time of the season, you want to have these moments where your freshmen or your fringe rotation guys can at least get some reps and have these types of outings that give them confidence that they can build on later on.
yeah. I thought he moved really well off the ball, like especially in kind of like those cuts and those flex cuts. I really liked his mid-range game.
Hmm.
He's got a smooth jumper, man. Like
Hmm.
he has some serious range. He's not just a guy that, has to be a roller or diver. Um, I was really impressed with both him and Opurum on both ends and think that I hope they get a lot more run like as we get closer to the end of the year because that could really raise the ceiling for this front court.
Yeah, I'm with you completely, especially because we don't know when Keyshawn Murphy's going to be back.
Mhm.
I think Murphy is good. I think his defense leaves something to be desired based on his measurables. Like, especially coming from a Chris Jans scheme, like I always just kind of assume that Chris Jans is going to find those front court types that are going to be a bit of bruisers and at least muck it up a little bit on the interior. I just didn't really see him give any sort of deterrence at the rim against Bethune-Cookman. And I mean, even when you look at Mississippi State's final defensive numbers from last year, and Murphy played a big role on that team, I think reason would suggest he probably has some work to do on that end. So if you can bring in a guy like Opurum or you can slide Williams Adams down to the 5 or even Filip Jovic, seeing him be productive in this game was a great sight. Like just having more options to give you different looks and maybe you can find like maybe Opurum can find his role as like a defensive specialist or something like more of the shot blocker, rim protector type that serves as a nice foil to Murphy, who has more of the face-up game, good passer, more offensively minded. So yeah, I'm with you that I think it could really help the ceiling for this team's defense.
Absolutely agree. Good win for Auburn. Who do they have next?
They have Wofford next. So they have one more bye game before they play Houston on November 16th. And off the top of my head, the game is in Birmingham. I don't know if it's part of a showcase or anything. It's too early for the players era. Maybe it's just
Yeah.
like an early season matchup where did they play Houston last season? No, they didn't. So
Oh, Auburn. No, Auburn did play Houston last season.
did they play in the tournament or was it in the
Auburn played Houston because they beat them
Oh, we were
in the
right. It
second
was the
game of the
second game of the
season.
season.
It wasn't it was like semi away. It was like not at Houston's arena, but it was in
The,
Houston or
the
Dallas or
Toyota
something.
Center.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah,
it was
yeah.
like a huge like announce themselves as a team win. It was a
Yes.
great win.
So,
I do not think that they will win this game
I
or win
don't
that game this year.
I don't either, but it looks like it was some sort of home and home with, well, they're like a not true home and home, but sort of a home and home.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you as Auburn is looking forward, where they have this last tune-up game before they play Houston with Wofford next on the schedule, how concerned are you about Tahad Pettiford and any sort of like, I would say the lack of a step forward? Do you think this is more a reflection of Tahad as the player or of how good Keyshawn Hall has been?
Yeah, I'm not worried about Pettiford at all.
Okay.
I think that first of all, like I said, this he's not going to be a good zone player. Like this scheme is going to neutralize everything that he wants to do, which is dribble drive and ball screen manipulation, which you can't do. Like Merrimack doesn't allow you to do that. So he had to kind of defer to Hall, who stepped up in a big way, and defer to the Williams Adams down low, who also stepped up in a big way. I think he'll be just fine. Slow start to the season, but I'm pretty high on him as just like a lead guard in the SEC. I don't think he's. I think was he first team preseason? I don't know if he's a first team preseason guy, but he could maybe make an all league team.
Yeah, so he was someone who, when it was announced that he was coming back to Auburn, I was like, okay, this guy is going to be an All-American. Consider the scheme, consider the track record of Bruce Pearl with these diminutive shot first guards. Like he has, there's a lot of reasons for hope and for optimism that he could take that step forward. But I think the abrupt retirement, switching over to Steven, all of that is just sort of put, at least in my mind, until proven otherwise, has a bit of a cloud over Auburn to like, okay, I just got to see it to believe it with the first time head coach. Even if I like the support staff, if I think he has good assistants and everything, but still need to see it a little bit against real competition. What is it going to look like to give him the same benefit of the doubt that Bruce had with getting the most out of Tahad? And even the more I thought about it, it sort of hit me that, last year Tahad was allowed to play off of guys like CBM and guys like Janai Broom, who were, I mean, you're not going to look at both. You're not going to confuse either Janai Broom or CBM for point guards, but they both could create their own shots and create for
Yep.
their teammates. They're both really, really smart players. I mean, CBM averaged nearly 4 assists a game. Like he had those guys who could sort of set him up and had that role where he could come in off the bench and just go crazy and like take whatever shot he wanted to, and that was his role. And as I thought about it, I was like, okay, are we sure he can be this true lead guard who's going to initiate the offense every time down? And I think there's a chance he hits that potential, but I don't know. I'm starting to think there's a better or more likely outcome, I would say, where he is still more of the flamethrower type who's kind of a little more inconsistent in a bigger role. But if Keyshawn Hall is going to be awesome, it shouldn't really hurt them. But I guess I would just say it'd be nice to have someone who I think would trust a little bit more as a table setter if you're trying to, like, if your two best players with Pettiford and Hall are more of just a go get you a bucket type.
Yeah, I don't know who else is going to be on this roster though.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, maybe you can play Freeman on the ball more. I don't think so. I think you put Pettiford on the ball. I'm just waiting to see when he gets a good matchup for him. Like, I think um, maybe Oregon, maybe Michigan. They both will play drop. That could be a good matchup for them. I think
Hmm.
Purdue. I think that Purdue is probably a pretty good matchup for him. I think you'll see over the next. It's a very tough non-con schedule, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you'll see a few like Pettiford breakout moments in the next month or so where you're like, oh, this is why we were high on this guy.
Yeah,
The first few games, like against Houston, I think he'll have a terrible game against Houston. He's not gonna be able to navigate that blitz, but it's just a bad matchup for him, and they're gonna have to rely more on Hall um, and Williams Adams in short roll situations
hmm
just in this
hmm
early going until you can really find a Pettiford breakout game, which will be Michigan, Oregon, Purdue area, I think.
I think that's a great point, Tanner. I don't want to overreact to this so far. I was just, I guess I did want to voice like a little bit of skepticism I had that he's a surefire top 10 player in the sport. I mean, he was 10th in our player rankings in our top 100. And I'm a little bit unsure if like he has the versatility to live up to that ranking, but he will have a chance to prove it once you get against those teams. Once the lights are on, where, I mean, he has tended to perform the best in on the biggest stages. So, we'll see what happens for him as this season continues. Auburn, you got one more tune-up game. Hopefully, you can keep making strides forward, and yeah, we'll see what happens as you inch closer and closer to these marquee non-conference games.